Hi guys, welcome to part 3 of this Microsoft Access series. Where we left off yesterday was looking at a calculated field, and I was mentioning the pension field. Basically, these figures are showing as pension, but this guy, Bill Smith, has not got a pension. So I want this to show as 0. Now to do that, I need to do a different calculation to the one that we did in the previous session. Click into Design. Click onto the field, pension amount, and then adjust this formula here by clicking into the line, clicking onto the expression builder box, and then editing this slightly. What I want to use is a function called IIF, which is immediate if, open a bracket. So the test for this is going to be if the pension field, I'll double click on that, equals true, which means they have a pension. If that's true, comma, you see the little help comes up there, so there's a test, first part, then there's a comma, what to do if it's true. If it's true, they do the formula, which is as it is there, and then another comma will bring that onto the false part. If it's false, they don't have any pension, so I don't want it to do a calculation, I want it just to show 0. So there's the formula. If pension equals true, let's pull that back a bit, it equals true, do the formula, salary times 0.04, otherwise just show 0. If I click OK to that, save the table, have a look. Now you can see there is only a figure there if this is true. If I tick that one, then that becomes true. If I take the tick off, then that becomes false. So that is a bit more complicated in terms of formula, but you get the point of it, I'm sure. IIF, immediate if the pension equals true, do the formula, salary times 0.04, otherwise leave it as 0. So that's the end of looking at table design. Now we're going to look at some information in the table itself, and I'm going to use a different database for this. File open, we're going to use one called company records. It's got some information typed out. So there's some tables here, different tables. The one I'm going to use first off is address details. Now if we have a look at design on this, you can see the structure. The staff ID field has a primary key, so that's a unique identifier, and the rest are all text until you get down to the bottom there where you've got 2 date time fields. If I click on the date time fields, there are no input masks on there, on either of those, I don't think. Oh yes, there is, there's one on that one. So there's a bit of inconsistency there. That should also have an input mask, so people type the same date format when they're entering information in this column. So date joined, for example, has no input mask. Date checked does have an input mask. Now, so what we're going to look at here is basically moving fields around in this view, this table view, and moving fields around in design view. Now if I highlight a column, I can simply move that column by dragging it left or right. So for example, if I highlight the surname column and push it in front of the first name, that is the order that this table will now show. If I go back into design though, the change has not happened in design. This order is the order that anything based on this table will take. So if you base a query on this table, it will be in this order, not that order. If you base a form or a report, it will pick this order up. So if you wanted to change that around, you would have to do it in design and then save the changes, and then that would cascade through the rest of the objects, forms, reports and queries, etc. So I'm just going to move that back in both views so you can see how to do that again. Just push it where you want to go there. Now if you want to add an extra field, so if I have a look at this table, I'll have to save that change. There is no county field in this. Now I could just click it there because it's going to be a text field, so I could just put a short text field there, which is okay, and then I could move it into position, or I could go into design and sit there and insert rows and just put it there, which I tend to do because I think it's easier to do it that way. Save and then have a look. You have a blank column. So really this is something you would not want to be doing too often, because it's not too bad at the moment because there are not many fields, not many rows filled in. But imagine if there was 10,000 lines there, that would be 10,000 blank column lines you'd have, which would need to be filled in. Now in the previous section we looked at doing a very simple lookup. In this section I want to do the other lookups that you can see. So basically I'm going to create a lookup to the city field, I'm going to create a lookup on the county field, and I'm going to create a lookup on the title field. Now the city field, first of all, there is a table called cities. It's just a list of cities. There isn't hundreds and hundreds of cities there, maybe just the cities where we've got clients. But to create a lookup so that I don't do a typo, I'm going to go into design, click onto the city field and do a manual lookup. Now you could use the lookup wizard to do this down the bottom there, lookup wizard, but I like to do this manually because I think when you do things manually you get a bit more of an understanding of how this works. So at the moment it's set to text box, which is the default. I'll drop that down and you have two other options, list and combo. List is an option that will show all the options within the lookup. Combo box is the one that I want for this example, and then it comes up with an array of information. Table and query, value list, which is a list that you would type, and field list, which is a list that would appear in a different table. So we'll have a look at each of these. So the first one we're going to do is a table, because I've got a table there called cities. Now in there I need to tell the computer where that is, so I select table cities. First column, there's only one column in that table. I don't need the column headers, and I can adjust all these other settings if I need to, but I'm not going to for this example. I'm going to save that change and have a look. So in this column I've now got the list of cities, so when I do a new record I can quickly go there and select a city or not. Now for the county, I do not have a table with a list of counties, so I can do this slightly different. If I go back into design, if I click onto the county field, I'm still going to do a lookup, so change that to combo box again. But this time it's not going to be a table or query, it's going to be a value list. A value list is a list that you are going to type, so I'm going to type my list, West Yorkshire, semicolon after it, Durham, semicolon, Tyne and Weir, and I think East Midlands might be there. Now there is a limit to what you can type in this list, so that's where you'd flick over to a table, maybe. Just do Cheshire and leave it like that. Now if I save that, go back to have a look, and have a drop down list. Now Manchester is in a county of its own, but I'm going to just type C. Let's pretend it's in Cheshire for now. I'm just typing the first letter of those counties, so W for West Yorkshire, East Midlands, T for Tyne and Weir, W, 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 W for everything else, but I can quickly fill that in. I could have also done a query to do that, but we are not at that stage yet, so there you go. That is a value list typed in. Now the other option was the field list, so to show you how that works, I'm going into a different table, staff training records, and here we have a lookup list there. Now if I go into design on this table and look at course attended, it's a combo box, but it's using a field list, the third option of the three, and it's getting its information from the table courses. So table courses, if I open that, it's using the fields, the field headings, as the list. Personally, I don't use this one very much because if you needed to add to the list, you would have to keep changing columns in this table. But I can understand how there are certain times when that would be okay, and this would be a fairly fixed list. So that's the three different lookup types that you've got. Field list, and then in address details you've got a table and a value list that you type. We've also looked at moving things around. We can also look at freezing panes. If I can make my window slightly smaller, not that small, I'll just do it now. So to freeze panes, just highlight the columns that you want to freeze, right click and freeze panes. And then if your window was smaller, you would be able to scroll along. Let's make it manually a bit bigger. So you can see there I can scroll these behind the frozen panes to make that full screen again. And then to unfreeze, you just right click unfreeze panes and you're back as you were. To hide columns, sometimes you may want to print off certain columns and not have everything else there, so you can just highlight, say I want those columns hidden, right click, right click again and hide these. Now when I do print preview on this, I will only see these columns, and you can see that there is nothing there to say that there's anything hidden. So it's very dangerous, this is. You must make sure you unhide after you've printed it off or whatever you want to do with it. Now to unhide the columns, you need to select unhide from the right mouse button and tick the fields that are not ticked, because those are the hidden ones. And I can testify from personal experience, when I first started using Access about 20 years ago, I did exactly that. I hid a column and then forgot to unhide it, and for weeks and weeks and weeks I never filled it in because I couldn't see it. And then all of a sudden I did see it, and then I had to fix that problem. So that's unhiding. Now copy and paste in Access is same as it is in most of the programs, with a slight difference, and that is this. So if I highlight that top line, or the line at the bottom there, I've copied that, and I did do the key command, which is Control C, it tells you there, Control C, and then I'm going to paste it in there. So at the moment, if I click off that, it's going to come up with an error message because I've got two number 13s, and I can't have two number 13s because that is a primary key. So I'll just change that to 14, and then obviously I don't want two Stevens, so maybe that was Anne, and obviously a Mrs. And that's just reminded me I'd forgotten to do the lookup list on this column, which I'll do in a second. So that was okay, just copied it straight away. But where the difference comes in is this. If I click on that cell there and copy that information and paste it below, I'm doing Control V, I'm right clicking, paste is grayed out, I haven't got any paste features there. And the reason that has happened is because when I copied that, I clicked there on the edge, so I got that white square, and it copied all the contents of the field. For me to paste that, I would have to do the same on the cell below, use the little white cross on that cell, and now on the right click I will have paste, and I will be able to paste that there. I'm just going to delete that one off. Yep. Now if I want to copy information, I can copy the whole column like so and paste it into a new table. I can copy a table itself. If I right click there and select copy, I can paste that down this side and give it a new name. I'll just put a number 1 after it and leave it as the same because I can delete that off afterwards. So that's copying everything. I've got the options there to just have the structure or add it to another table, but I'll just leave it like that so it'll be exactly the same. There she is. Now in this one I may want to go into design and delete all of this information, for example. Save that, have a look. So I've got a starting point. Create a bit of a duplicate really, and you wouldn't want to do that in Microsoft Access. I'm just showing you the different ways you can copy and paste. Now I'm going to close this table down, back to the other one, and then to delete that table I can just press delete and delete the table. Now when I'm testing things in Access, that's what I do. I copy the original table, I test it on the copy, and when the copy is okay, I can either rename the copy and delete the original or make the changes on the original. But whatever you do, do not edit or practice on live data, because if it goes wrong, you haven't got undo. Now you can also widen columns to fit, like you can in Excel. Double clicking will do the auto fit feature. If I highlight several columns, you've got the option to get the columns to fit by clicking on field width, and then you've got best fit there, which will do what it says on the tin, it does the best fit. Now when you enter data into an Access table, you do not have to save it, which is quite strange. If you went through the process of save, it wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't be actually saving anything, because as soon as you tab off a record, so if I come off this record for example, tab to create a new record 15, and then start typing Mr. Brian Green, 1 Red House, Leeds, West Yorkshire. Now I'm just typing the first letter there to get those in. LE1, LE2 even, 1 RT, and then type in the details. What happens is that is automatically saved as soon as I press down and tab off the record. I didn't have to click save. Now if I delete that, in fact I'm going to delete these two because I've added them in. I've highlighted them, now I'm pressing my delete. It's telling me there, if I click this, you won't be able to undo this delete operation. So if you hesitate on a delete, don't do it. I don't need to hesitate, so I am going to delete it. Now there is no undo for me to get that back. Undo's grayed out, so that would be lost. And if you didn't have a backup copy, you would lose the data. So that's something that whenever anybody's using Microsoft Access, that they should make sure everybody knows that you can't just delete things without consequences. So that is the end of this session on tables. The next session we're going to look at is a few more little things we can do with tables, and then we're going to move on to queries. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon.